Ms. Hancock, you said that you had seen on TV that my husband had passed away. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated after that you saw my sister-in-law, Kay Woodcock, on that show, and you reached out to her. Is that correct?
I didn't indicate that, but that is correct. I reached out to Kay after I saw that Charles had died.
Okay. And did you do that through Facebook or
I did.
social media? Okay. How many times between that first contact and now have you and Kay Woodcock communicated?
I've spoken to her just once. I've texted her here and there regarding, I've texted her here and there about other things. I don't know what I can say.
Okay. How many times have you texted her?
I have no idea.
Like more than 10?
Maybe.
Okay. Have you ever turned over those communications to the state?
No.
Did they ask you for them?
No.
Okay. Did you ever turn over the text conversations you had with my husband to the state?
I was never asked, but I understand that they retrieved them via having them through Charles' phone.
Okay.
I would have had I been asked.
Okay. Did you turn over any other communications that you had with anyone else regarding this case to the state?
I don't believe I've had any other regarding this case to turn over to anybody, so no.
Okay. How many times have you spoken to this prosecutor?
To Ms. Kay,
Yes, to Ms. Kay.
I met with her once in person and one other phone call, and then just text messages about the logistics of being here today.
Okay. How many text messages would you say?
I have no idea.
More than 10?
I know court was running behind, so she had to text me to come at a different time. Probably counting yesterday and today to redo the time, more than 10, yes. Prior than that, probably no.
Okay. Did you have a meeting with her to prepare for this testimony?
I met with her once.
How long was that meeting?
An hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Okay. Was anyone else there?
No.
Have you ever spoken to my brother, Adam?
Yes, but only because I ran into him at my grandson's pickleball tournament the other day.
And how did you know that was him?
Because I've seen him on media via the situation surrounding you.
So you initiated a conversation with him?
I just said hi, and he asked me who my grandson was, and I pointed it out, and that was the end of it.
So you introduced yourself to him? To my brother?
I don't know that I introduced myself, but maybe.
How would he know who you were?
I don't know that he knew who I was. I knew who he was.
So you went up and talked to him?
I did talk with him, yes.
He didn't call you over, so you went up and talked to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were talking to him, you told him you were who?
I told him that my name was Nancy Jo Hancock.
And did he recognize that name from something?
Can I go back and change how I met your brother? I forgot this until right now. So on a dating app, your brother's picture came up on my dating app. And I sent him a message and said, but he had a different name that he used, not Adam. And so I just sent him a message and said if he was going to use someone else's pictures, he should probably pick someone different than Adam Cox. That's how I met him.
That's how you met my brother, Adam?
Correct.
Do you know what perjury is?
Absolutely.
I object, Your Honor, to
Question.
argumentative harassment.
Argumentative.
How long was this conversation that you had with my brother at the pickleball tournament?
A couple of minutes, maybe less.
And how many times had you communicated with him before that?
Only that message on that dating app besides that.
One message, one time?
I don't remember. I think he messaged me back and it didn't continue.
So it's just the one day then? Maybe several messages in one day?
I might have sent him one other message, but it was just one interaction and there was nothing further.
And you did not schedule a date with him?
I did not.
Okay. Have you ever spoken to Brandon Boudreau?
Yes.
Okay, when?
He attends the same church that my daughter does, and he happened to be at their house briefly, and I didn't really speak to him. I just knew that that's who he was
And how did you know who he was?
because my daughter told me.
And who did she say he was
Brandon Boudreau.
in relation to me?
She knows the story, and I know the story, so she just had to tell me that his name was Brandon Boudreau.
That he was married to my niece? Is that the information that you had?
I know that he was married to your niece, yes.
Okay. Just the association is all I was asking. And you did speak to him that time?
Well, I don't believe I spoke with him.
Okay. But you met him? Or
I don't know that I even met him. I was there, he was there with some other people, and I knew that that's who that was.
So you didn't introduce yourself to him?
I did not.
Okay. Did you speak to any other law enforcement besides Ms. K? Not that she's law enforcement, but did you speak to any other law enforcement about this case or be interviewed?
Yes.
Who? Who did you speak with?
Detective Moffat is who interviewed me. I believe that's, I might have left a message for him. I couldn't tell you who with, but the only one that I spoke to was Detective Moffat, Nathan Moffat.
And when was that interview?
In 2020, I believe in April. A long time ago.
Okay. How long was that interview about?
It was a telephone interview, and it lasted 45 minutes, I'd say.
Is that the only law enforcement that you spoke to besides the prosecutor?
Yes.
And how long between that interview with Detective Moffat and your first communications with Ms. K, how much time passed in between there?
With Trina Kay,
Correct.
I met with her just a month ago, 5 weeks ago, and I gave an interview in 2020, so.
Is that the first communication you had with Ms. K was 5 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Hancock, were you aware at the time of your date that I did not know that my husband was on dating websites and dating women?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Were you informed by him that I knew of the situation of us being separated?
He was under the impression you were having an affair, so him moving on was a natural effect from that.
He told you that?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Just to recap, you said that you met my husband Charles, on July 3rd. Is that correct?
Approximately. Give or take a day.
And you went on a date with him on July 10th.
Correct?
So that was what, 7 days later?
Approximately.
So would it be fair to say that you knew my husband for a week?
Approximately.
Okay. And then you had no contact with Charles after that, correct?
Well, he was dead, so clearly I didn't have contact with him.
Okay. And it wasn't until you saw that he had passed away on the news that you reached out to anyone, is that correct?
Correct? I didn't know he was dead.
And that was about 6 months later, is that correct?
I believe it was December, so July to December is 5 months, I believe.
Okay. And then you found Charles' sister, Kay Woodcock, my sister-in-law, yes?
Objection asked and answered.
I'm just going over the timeline, Your Honor.
I'll allow it, go ahead.
So when is the then you're referring to?
So at the 5 months later that you said in December, after that is when you contacted Kay Woodcock?
To express my condolences for her brother passing away and wanted to let her know that I had had dinner with him that last night and how much he loved JJ and how excited he was to see him the next morning. And just
Thank you, that's enough. I'm just recapping here, and you contacted her through Facebook, is that correct?
And again, asked and answered.
I don't think that was actually asked yet. Overruled, go ahead.
yes, as I said before, I contacted her through Facebook.
Okay. And then sent a few text messages, is that correct?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
This is recap of everything we've already gone through.
And then you said you met with police on April 22nd, 2020, is that correct?
I didn't say April 22nd. I said I believed it was sometime in April.
Okay,
And I didn't meet with them. It was a telephone interview.
okay. And that was around 1 year after my husband passed away, is that correct?
Well, July to April would be 10 months, so.
No more questions, Your Honor?
All right, redirect.
Thank you. Did you reach out to the police, or did the police reach out to you after you learned Charles was?
I reached out to the police. I was surprised, given that if they'd seen his phone, they would see the text communication that we had had and that we had been at dinner that night before he died.
In terms of speaking with Charles's family, Kay Woodcock, did you know her before this?
No.
Had you heard her name through speaking with Charles?
Yes, from Charles. I knew that he had changed his life insurance to his sister Kay, and he talked quite a bit about Kay and his love for her and the relationship with JJ and how that they had adopted JJ.
So you understood the closeness he had with his sister,
Absolutely.
and you said you reached out to pay your condolences.
I did.
When you learned that Charles was dead, were you shocked?
I was watching the TV and it was talking about a case and his picture came on the screen and shocked is an understatement, yes.
In terms of talking with Kay, have you ever tried to talk to other people to learn about or verify if the stuff that Charles told you is accurate?
No.
Is what you are telling us just what he told you?
What I'm telling you is part of what he told me. There's a lot more.
And did you tell the police all of what he told you? That you could remember at that time, I should say.
I believe, no, I thought I would probably be interviewed again, and it was more an ask-answer format. There was, I remember being surprised that I wasn't interviewed again.
Because Charles had shared so much with you.
Correct.
In terms of the defendant's brother, Adam, did you ever talk with him about the case?
No.
Through media, did you recognize him?
I
as-
recognized him because I'd seen him on reports. And I knew that he was going to be testifying in this hearing.
When did you see him? When was this interaction
Like
at this pickleball?
a week and a half ago.
So a week and a half ago, when you see him at a pickleball tournament with your grandkid, you say hi to him?
Basically.
You don't talk at all about the case?
We might have talked about that we were testifying. I don't know. No details for sure.
Okay.
Just a general, and then he saw who my grandson was, and the end.
So nothing about, hey, I'm going to say this, or Charles told me this?
Absolutely not.
When you and I met, did we go through your testimony? Or let me get this straight. Did we go through what you told the police?
Yeah.
Did I indicate to you to just tell the truth,
You told me to tell the truth,
whatever that was?
whatever that was.
You were asked about the fact that you knew Charles for basically a week, right?
Correct.
Did he make an impression on you?
Charles was a large personality. It would be hard not to be impressed by his wit and just gregarious, big personality with his southern accent.
You were asked a lot on cross about you dating a married man.
Correct.
What was your impression of where this relationship was between Charles and Lori Vallow when you and Charles started talking?
Well, I knew that they had separated and that they had reconciled, and I knew he had filed, and then he had recanted that. But he also had met with an attorney to begin the process again, and was very emphatic that he was done with all the craziness.
And was that last time something that you understood to be very recent?
Prior to us meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's talking to you, he's telling you about, you said, sort of the whole year of 2019, correct? But this last understanding that you had of him now going back to a divorce lawyer, was that something you understood to be very recent in time to that July 10th when you're meeting?
Correct.
Okay. And did you understand him to have even met with an attorney?
I believe he told me that, yes.
So that was where you were at,
Yes.
and that's what you understood Charles to be at.
Yes, and I will say, after having dinner with him, I did tell him that no one would want to be serious with him until he was further along in accomplishing that divorce that he was in the process of, including myself.
So even though you knew he was just barely starting now, did you still want to meet with him again?
Yeah, I wouldn't have entertained a serious relationship, but he was fun, and yeah, I would have met with him again.
All right. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Are there any questions for this witness from the jury? I see at least one question coming down. I think we have our white noise, our
Jury ask questions?
Yep. Ever expressed to you verbally any indications of stress?
Definitely, he was very worried that,
That, I think we'll just keep it with a yes/no answer for this question. Does the defense have follow-up based on that juror question? Does the defendant have follow-up based on that juror question?
Oh, no, Your Honor.
All right, state.
No.
All right, you can step down, thank you.
Do you live here in Arizona?
yes,
Did you live here in Arizona in 2019?
I did.
Are you from here?
Not originally.
How long have you been in Arizona?
2009.
I want to start by asking you a little bit about some personal part of your life. Are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes,
Were you raised in that religion?
I was.
As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, did you ever meet Lori Vallow?
I did.
Do you recall sort of where you first met her? Start with that.
At church.
And do you recall approximately when you first met her?
We moved into that area in 2010, and I'm not sure if their family was there at that time or not, but
Sometime after that?
yes,
And did you know her husband, Charles Vallow?
yes,
Was that also through church?
yes.
Did you initially, well, let me start. Did you know they were married?
Yes.
Did you have more contact with one over the other?
More with Lori than with Charles.
And why was that?
My sons and husband had interaction with Lori through the primary program, and I didn't have much interaction with her before they moved to Hawaii. But when her and Charles had moved to Hawaii, we went on a trip and we stopped to visit, and Charles was not at home, and so we interacted with Lori on that trip.
Okay. Do you see Lori Vallow at that time in the courtroom today?
I'm sorry, what was that?
See Lori Vallow in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And can you point her out and identify what she's wearing?
Purple top and suit coat, dark suit coat.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It shall.
Okay, so you told us that you met Lori and Charles through the church. Do you know how long you went to church with them before they moved to Hawaii?
I don't recall what year they moved, but I know that we moved to the area in 2010 and we went and visited in 2015.
Okay. And that's, you visited them in
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Other than that, well, let me ask you, when you visited Lori in Hawaii, were her kids there with her? That you said they lived there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so did you know at that time how many children were living with Lori and Charles?
2.
Who were they?
JJ and Tylee. I don't know if Tylee was there that weekend. She may have been gone. It might have just been JJ.
But you were familiar with them having those 2 children?
Yes.
Residing with them?
Oh, and I also had known her son previous, before they moved to Hawaii, was in our ward as well. But he wasn't living in Hawaii, I don't believe.
That was, do you know if that was Colby?
Yes.
Was he a son from a prior marriage?
Yes.
Did you know any of Charles's children from a prior marriage?
No.
When you went to Hawaii and saw Lori and JJ, how long did you spend a day or weeks? How long were you visiting them?
We visited on a Sunday afternoon for an hour or two, and then sometime in that week, we got together for a couple of hours on the ocean, just paddleboarding, and that was it.
Had you had social interactions with Lori and Charles prior to going to Hawaii?
Not anything of other than waving or saying hello or something, no.
So mostly it would have been prior to that tied to any church activities or
Right.
things like that?
Correct.
Did you at some point learn that Lori and Charles had moved back to Arizona?
Yes.
How did you learn that?
I'm not positive if it was that I ran into them in the temple, because I recall one time seeing them both at the temple.
And do you recall if that was around 2018?
Like, yes.
When you said you ran into them, you're saying both Charles and Lori you saw at the temple.
Yes.
And so you learned they're back in Arizona at this point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever have Lori ask you to go with her to Hawaii?
Yes, she did invite me.
Do you recall when that was?
I believe it was the fall or late summer of 2018, but I'm not positive.
Do you recall ever do you remember being interviewed by the police?
Yes.
And were you interviewed by a couple different detectives?
Yes.
In April of 2021, do you remember speaking with a detective, Ron Ball?
Yes.
And do you remember telling him that sort of the beginning of the year of 2019 is when Lori asked you if you wanted to go to Hawaii?
Could have been, yep.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Did she tell you why she wanted to go to Hawaii?
No, I don't recall.
Let me ask you this. When you spoke with the police back in 2020, was your memory better at that point about all of what
For
was going
sure.
on? Now that it's 2025, has your memory faded as to some of the details?
Yes.
Would listening to a portion of your interview about that help potentially refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And Your Honor, if I can have my paralegal go up with Exhibit 282.
Go ahead.
So if you can just listen to this portion and see if that refreshes your recollection as to why Lori was asking you to go to Hawaii and when. Was that you talking to the detective about this sort of time period in January where Lori's asking you to go to Hawaii and there's a lot of things going on there?
Yes, I recall that. I actually remembered the invitation being prior to that, and what I was referring to there was something else.
Okay. So there was a prior time you had gone to Hawaii to see Lori and a prior invite, correct?
No, I'd just gone in 2015 with my family.
Okay.
That's the only time
That you went there with?
that I went there, yes.
Okay. So having listened to that recording, did it refresh your recollection about Lori inviting you to Hawaii in sort of the January of 2019 period?
Yes, but I didn't say there that I was invited to go, and I thought that that was previous to that time, but at some point in either the fall or the spring there, I thought it was the fall, winter, she invited me to go to Hawaii,
Okay.
and I wasn't able to go.
When, well, let me ask you. So in January of 2019, did Lori reach out to you about some things that were going on in her life?
Yes,
Did she talk to you about her marriage?
she shared that she was upset with Charles.
And did she indicate whether or not she was still living with him?
She had indicated that she was not with him at the time.
Did she indicate that she had gone to Hawaii?
Yes,
And did she indicate that she was not telling anyone that she was there?
she indicated that she was keeping it, that there wasn't very many people she was sharing it with, yes.
Okay. Did she indicate that Charles was back in Texas?
Yes,
Did she indicate that Charles had JJ with him in Texas?
Yes.
Did she indicate that her daughter Tylee was staying with her brother Alex?
Yes.
Did she indicate that Charles had tried to take her temple recommend away, and this was one of the reasons she left?
Yes.
And was it her, did she tell you that she didn't want Charles to know where she was?
I don't recall.
So if you had said that to the police back in April of 2021, would your memory have been better
For
back then?
sure.
Do you contest that you told the police back then that she was trying to make sure that Charles didn't know where she was?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Would you, if you had told the police back in April of 2021 that Lori told you she didn't want Charles to know where she was, would you have been truthful back then
For
telling
sure,
them that?
yes.
Okay. Do you know how long she stayed in Hawaii?
I don't.
Did you ever become aware of her going to Idaho as well?
No. Not until December of 2019.
Do you know how long she stayed, how long she didn't let Charles know where she was?
I don't recall.
At some point, did you learn she was back in Arizona?
Yes.
Did she reach out to you to invite you to any groups?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately when the first time it was that you met with her in some group format in 2019?
I believe it was spring 2019, maybe February.
And do you recall, were there other people at that meeting?
Yes.
Do you recall who was there?
Yes.
Who was it?
Zulema, Melanie Gibb, Nicole Earl, and Serena Sharp.
Who organized that? Or who invited you? Let me ask that. Did Lori invite you, or did one of these other women invite you?
I don't recall.
Do you recall whose house it was at?
It was at Zulema's.
Okay. And did you know at that time if Lori and Charles were still separated?
Could you say that again?
Did you know at this meeting if Lori and Charles were still separated, living in different homes?
Yes, I believe so.
Did you know who was caring for JJ at that time?
Yes, I believe she was at Alex's.
JJ?
Oh, sorry, JJ. I believe JJ was in Texas.
Still with Charles?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a yes?
Yes.
And then you said Tylee was still staying with her uncle Alex?
Yes.
Did you know where Lori was living at that time?
With Alex.
Had you met these other women prior to this meeting in February-ish of 2019?
The only other person that I knew was Nicole Earl.
Okay. So this was the first time you were meeting the person whose house it was at, Zulema?
Correct.
The first time that you were meeting Melanie Gibb?
Correct.
And the first time you said Serena, is that Serena Sharp?
Correct.
Was there anything that Lori said at this meeting in February-ish of 2019 that she said about Charles that stood out to you?
She was concerned about dark spirits plaguing him.
Did she in fact tell you that he was possessed by dark spirits?
I don't recall.
Did you recall talking to the police, again, back in April of 2021, and advising them that this is the first time you're hearing that Charles is possessed?
If I said it then yes.
When you were meeting on this weekend, or this weekend, what do you remember about this group meeting? Was it a night, a weekend? How was that?
It was an evening. We may have met twice in the evening that weekend.
Did you know where Serena was from? Like, did she live locally?
She did not. She was visiting from out of state.
When you were meeting at these in February of 2019, do you recall telling police that Lori was talking about Charles being dark or having a dark spirit?
Yes,
And you recall saying that he was possessed and she had a name for who he was possessed by?
sorry, can you say that one more time?
Sure. Do you recall telling the police that he was possessed and she had a name for who he was possessed by?
I don't recall, but believe that I said it.
Would listening to your recording help refresh your recollection as to that?
Yes.
Your Honor, if we can have her listen to Exhibit 200.
Go ahead.
Did that help refresh your recollection as to whether or not Lori had ever told you that her husband, Charles, was possessed?
Yes,
And did it help refresh your recollection as to whether or not Lori Vallow had told you that her husband was possessed by some spirit that had a name?
yes,
And at that time, you could not recall what the name was?
correct.
Correct. Okay. Did you hear Lori speak about Charles being possessed more than once,
Yes,
on more than one occasion?
yes,
Did she tell you, as well as the other women who were at this meeting in February, that her husband was possessed?
yes,
Okay. So it wasn't just you in a private conversation.
correct.
She was open about it.
Yes,
When you would try to reach Lori, did she have multiple phone numbers that you could call?
yes.
Do you recall if she had more than 2 phones?
I know 2 cell phones.
And did she also potentially have a third line? A third phone number that might have been a home number?
Yes,
Okay. So at least 2 different cell phones that you could call her.
yes.
Was she working at the time?
Not that I recall.
Did you know her to work?
No,
So to your understanding, they were both personal cell phones?
correct.
Like a work phone that was given to her?
Yes,
Did you have another meeting that you recalled where it was like a Zoom type meeting where maybe Serena had called in or done a team Zoom meeting during the pandemic?
yes.
Do you recall where that meeting happened? Did anyone meet in person during that one?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Everyone was attending via Zoom?
Yes,
And during this meeting, do you recall Lori again talking about Charles being possessed
yes,
and being controlled by dark spirits?
yes.
Did you ever participate in any castings? Let me ask it this way. Did Lori ever talk to you about casting?
Yes,
What did you understand that to mean?
it was praying for dark spirits to be cast out of someone.
Were you ever involved in a casting for her husband?
I was in her presence when she prayed for that.
Were you ever present when people were assigned different elements to be part of the casting?
I don't recall.
Do you recall when you were present for that casting? Do you recall which one of these meetings you may have been present for that casting? We have a meeting in February, as you said, and a Teams meeting. Was it at either of those?
The last time that I got together with her at Zulema's house, we had all got together and prayed.
Okay.
And
Then let's talk about the last time.
okay,
Was the last time you all got together on June 9th of 2019?
yes,
And you said that was at Zulema's house as well?
yes.
Who invited you to that?
I don't recall.
Who was at the meeting?
It's the first time I'd ever met Alex, her brother. Sulema was there. I believe her niece, Melanie Boudreau, was there. Nicole Earl and Melanie Gibb. And there was another woman that was a friend of one of the ladies, but I can't recall her name.
Okay. So was this the first time you met Melanie Boudreau?
No, I'd met her another time.
And do you recall when that was?
That was at Alex's house, I believe.
Was that one of the two
In
meetings?
between those two, the first and the last, I believe there was 3 meetings.
Okay. Um, And you said it was the first time you met Alex Cox.
Correct.
How did you learn he was related to Lori?
He was introduced to me.
Okay. As her brother?
Yes.
Can you tell us your impression of Alex Cox? What was the impression you got from meeting him and being with him for a night?
I was put off by it.
Why?
He was pretty loud and outspoken, I guess. And I was very uncomfortable with what he was talking about.
Okay. Well, let's kind of go through what happened at this meeting. At this meeting, did Lori still express that her husband, Charles, was possessed?
Yes.
And what were you guys, what was happening at this meeting? I know you said there was a prayer. What was happening?
We were asked to fast and pray for her family, and so we'd come together fasting, and we, as I recall, gathered outside and had a prayer together. And I believe Lori was the one that said the prayer. And then we went in and broke our fasts and ate and then visited.
Okay. Was Alex part of that prayer outside?
Yes.
Okay. During this, when you broke your fast and you guys were eating, did you hear Alex making some comments?
Yes.
And you told us that they made you uncomfortable. What were these comments?
He stated he wished that he could just kill Charles.
Okay. Was Lori around when he's saying this?
Yes, one of the times.
Okay. So he said it more than once.
Yes.
Can you describe for us sort of his demeanor when he's saying this about wanting to just kill Charles?
It was jocular, just as I recall, he was standing up and just talking about it pretty loudly.
And you said one of the times that he said this, it was around Lori.
Yes.
Did she react in any way to hearing her brother say that he wished he could just kill her husband?
Not that I recall.
Did you overhear Lori ever tell him, "You can't kill my husband"?
No.
Or why would you say such a thing like that?
No.
Did it seem to have any impact that you recall on her?
No.
Now, you were disturbed by this,
Yes.
but you didn't see that same reaction in her.
Correct.
What did you think when you heard this?
It was upsetting.
And so you've already heard Lori talking for at least a couple months about her husband being possessed, right?
Yes.
Inhabited by these dark, evil spirits, right?
Yes.
And now you're hearing her brother say that he wished he could just kill him.
Yes.
And this is on June 9th of 2019.
Yes.
During this same gathering on June 9th of 2019, did you hear Lori Vallow say anything about Charles that was also disturbing to you?
Yes.
What did you hear her say?
I heard her say that she had crushed up some of JJ's medicine and put it in his drink mix.
Did it sound like a significant amount of medication?
Yes.
When you heard this, what were you thinking?
I was disturbed.
So you're thinking now she's drugging her husband?
Yes.
Alex, have any reaction to this?
Not that I recall.
So when you are hearing these sort of things, did you say anything at that time?
I didn't.
Did you stay much longer at this
No.
gathering? Did you decide to do anything as a result of having heard Alex make those statements about killing Charles and Lori making statements about drugging her husband?
Yes.
What did you decide to do?
I reached out and asked her to visit with me.
And when was that?
I believe the next day.
So June 10th?
Yes,
And did you meet with her?
I did.
And what did you tell her?
I told her I was very concerned about what had been said and that it was really disturbing. And I told her that if something had happened to Charles, that I would go to the police.
And how did she react to that?
She said that they were just being silly and just playing off of each other and that she hadn't meant anything by it. She's just being dramatic.
Did she also give you a sort of a lesser dose of drugs that she was drugging?
Yes, she said that she hadn't given as many as she had suggested the day before.
Minimized what she said.
Yes.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some other things that you had been hearing from Lori during this time period. From the time you started meeting with these gatherings in February through to June, did you start to see sort of a progression of things that Lori was telling you that seemed outside of your faith?
Yes.
Did she make statements to you that you believed went against your religion?
Yes.
Did she at any point tell you that she did not need to repent anymore?
Yes.
What is that meaningful to you in your religion?
We believe that every single person outside of Jesus Christ has reason to repent.
So when she said something like that, did that cause you some concern?
It did.
Did she ever talk to you about going through a translation?
Yes, that she believed she was beginning to.
Did she ever talk to you and the others in your groups about knowing you in prior lives?
Yes.
And was everyone in the group sort of someone she indicated she knew from prior lives?
Yes.
Now, prior to sort of February and then these 3 meetings, had you had a lot of contact with Lori?
No.
Like you hadn't dined with her or, gone shopping with her or anything like that before?
No, not between those 3.
When you were at that last meeting in June, was Serena at that meeting?
No.
During that meeting, did you overhear Lori talking about Serena in a way that also disturbed you?
Yes.
What do you recall of that?
It was just very negative, and that she didn't believe that Serena was going to be good after all, something to that effect.
Okay. So prior to that meeting, Serena had been at the meeting at Zulema's house,
Yes, just the one.
and she had been on a Zoom meeting maybe?
Yes.
And then this meeting in June, she was not. And at that point, Lori seemed to be talking negative of her.
Correct.
When you talked to Lori about these statements that you had heard Alex say and her say on the 9th, did you continue to meet up with Lori after that?
No,
Did Lori ever invite you to any more of these gatherings or prayers?
I was invited one time to go for lunch.
When was that?
I believe August.
So between June and August, you did not receive any other invitations?
No,
Did you at some point learn that Charles had been killed?
yes.
How did you learn that?
I received a text message that he had been killed.
And who did you think had killed Charles?
Originally, when I received the message, I believed it was a brother-in-law of his. And so it was some time before I realized that Alex had been involved.
So initially, you had said when you met with Lori, that you would go to the police. But when you learned Charles was killed, your understanding was it was someone else.
Correct.
So when you learned it was Alex, what was going through your head then?
I had somebody who had visited with Lori about it and had said that,
Without going into their hearsay, let me just
Okay.
ask you this. Had you spoken to someone who was passing along information to you of what they understood had happened?
yes,
Okay. The shooting of Charles by Alex was about a month after you had heard him say he wanted to kill Charles, correct?
yes.
Did you feel like after you confronted Lori that she distanced herself from you?
Yes,
Did that seem to be the same as what you heard and saw happening with Serena?
I don't know.
Okay. On the 9th, you had heard Lori talking negative about Serena, correct?
Yes.
And she hadn't been invited to that meeting.
She lived out of state, so it wasn't surprised that she wasn't invited.
Had she flown in for a previous meeting, though?
Yes,
So,
just the one, the initial one.
in terms of your interactions with Lori, did she ever tell you that she was joking about her husband being possessed?
No,
Did she ever tell you she was joking about him having this dark spirit inhabiting him?
no,
And did she ever, you told us that she told you there was a name for this spirit that you don't recall now, correct?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you she was joking about that?
no.
No other questions. Thank you.
All right, Cross,
No questions, Your Honor.
are there any questions for this witness from the jury? Not seeing any, ma'am, you can step down.
Thank you.
Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Adam Cox.
How old are you, Adam?
I just turned 56.
And what do you currently do for a living or for life?
I'm a pro pickleball player and instructor.
Where are you living now? Just what state?
I live in Arizona.
Back in July of 2019, where were you living?
Wichita, Kansas.
Prior to your pickleball career, did you have a different career?
I did.
What was that?
I was a radio morning show host.
Is that why you were in Wichita?
Yes.
Did that make you travel a lot?
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about your family first, okay?
Okay.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southern California.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
Yes.
How many?
5. Or
And-
4 siblings.
Can you tell us the names of the 5 siblings you had growing up?
Stacy, Alex, Lori, and Summer.
For Alex, did people refer to him as Al sometimes?
Yes.
And for Summer, did people call her Sum?
Yes.
Were your sisters Lori and Summer close?
Yes.
I want to ask you about another family member. Back in 2019, Melanie Boudreau. How is she related to your family?
Melanie is my oldest sister, Stacy's daughter, so she's my niece.
And was your sister Lori close with Melanie?
Yes.
Do you see your sister Lori in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's sitting there wearing black blazer.
And may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It shall.
In July of 2019, was your sister married?
Yes.
Who was she married to?
Charles Vallow.
And so in July of 2019, was your sister known as Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Do you know approximately how long Lori and Charles were married?
I think over 10 years.
Okay. Do you know if your sister, since the passing of Charles, married Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did Lori, your sister Lori, have any children from prior marriages before she and Charles got together?
Yes.
And who were those?
Colby and Tylee.
Okay. And were they from the same marriage?
No.
By July of 2019, was Colby an adult?
Yes.
Do you have a son, Zach?
Yes.
Did your son Zach ever live with Lori and Charles for a bit?
Yes.
Did he move in there after Colby moved out?
Yes.
In July of 2019, was Lori's other daughter, Tylee, still under the age of 18?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not Charles helped raise Colby and Tylee?
Yes.
Did you know if Charles had any children from prior marriage?
Yes.
Do you know how many children he had from a prior marriage?
I think 2.
Okay. And do you know if either of those 2 children lived with Lori or Charles?
Visited. I don't know if they ever lived there.
Okay. Did Lori and Charles have any kids together?
JJ?
Was JJ adopted? Okay. So did they adopt him together?
Yes.
Okay. So in 2019, did Lori and Charles have just JJ and Tylee as their kids living with them?
Yes.
Did Lori and Charles always live in Arizona?
No.
Where else did you know them to live?
Texas and Hawaii.
Okay. We had talked about your brother Alex, or Al. Were you close with your brother Alex?
Somewhat.
Do you know where Alex was living in July of 2019? What state?
Arizona.
And can you describe your brother Alex's relationship with your sister Lori? Were they close?
I mean, I don't know if close is the word I would use growing up, but
Describe
just
for us.
normal brother-sister relationship, I guess.
As they became adults, did they continue to be close, or what do you recall of their relationship?
Yeah, over the last, I guess 4 or 5 years.
The last 4 or 5 years between them was what?
They were closer, they were close for like a year and a half, is what I remember.
Before this happened?
Yeah, they became oddly close for a while.
How about the relationship between Charles and Alex? Do you recall what that was like?
Just a normal brother-in-law relationship, I guess.
Did you ever know them to do things just the 2 of them?
No, I don't have any knowledge of that.
Did your family sort of do a lot of big family events where everyone might be together.
Yes, yeah,
Birthday meals, holidays.
yes.
Adam, did you grow up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes,
And are you still a member of that?
yes.
At some point, was your brother Alex excommunicated?
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
I think he was excommunicated twice. So I'm not sure the dates or when that happened, but when he was an adult.
In 2019, was he still excommunicated to your knowledge?
Yes.
What does that mean to be excommunicated?
It means that you do certain things to where the church, it takes away your membership from the church.
Are you able to go to temple if you're excommunicated?
No.
Is that important?
Going to the church in our faith is important, yes.
Let's talk about your relationship with Charles Vallow. Did you and Charles ever text?
Yes,
Did you and Charles ever talk on the phone?
yes.
When Lori and Charles were married, were you aware that Charles would pay for things for the family, like cell phones?
Yeah, I heard that there's people in our family that they're on his business self plan.
Or car insurance?
Don't know about car insurance, but
You knew about the cell phones.
yeah.
Did you know what Charles did for a living?
Yes.
What was it?
He sold insurance.
Okay. Did you know what kind of insurance?
No, he explained it one time, but he was doing something with school teachers or helping them with their situation.
Okay. Did you know whether or not Charles traveled a lot for work?
Yes.
Was he traveling to other states?
Yes.
And was that sort of throughout his marriage with Lori?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of whether or not your sister Lori worked prior to marrying Charles?
Yes.
Do you know what kind of work she did?
She was a hairstylist.
Okay. After she married Charles, did she continue to work outside the home?
At a hair salon?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of.
Was it your understanding Charles worked so she could take care of the children?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So you were unaware of her doing any sort of outside work like she had done prior to being married to him?
Yeah, I don't know any of that.
At some point, did you learn or become aware of the fact that Lori and Charles were having some marital problems?
Yes.
Just yes or no, did you ever talk to Charles about why he and Lori were having marital problems?
Yes.
You yourself personally, were you aware of Lori having any beliefs that were outside of what is accepted by the LDS religion?
Yes.
Can you tell us what you were aware of that you knew to be outside the LDS religion?
Lori told me that she was in the process of translating from a mortal human being to an immortal human being, a celestial state.
That's something that the LDS religion supports?
I haven't heard of it and that it's happened here on Earth yet.
Did you ever hear her talking about being married to someone that is relevant in your religion?
Yes, I have heard that.
Did she tell that to you?
I don't know. I can't recall her telling me that, but I remember other people telling me that.
Okay. Was there anything else that you recall her telling you that she believed that seemed outside the LDS religion?
Yes. There was a time where she told me that she had more priesthood authority than the priesthood.
And why, can you explain for us what that means, why that was significant to you?
In our religion, the men hold the priesthood, and she said that she's in a state where she's above that.
Okay.
I didn't quite understand it, but very strange.
Did you confront her about these beliefs?
Confront her? No.
Did you discuss with her about these beliefs?
I just let her say what she wanted to say.
Was there ever a conversation where, when she was telling you these things, where she asked if you thought she was crazy?
Yes.
How did you respond to that?
I said, I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true. It's not real.
After you said that, what happened to your relationship with Lori?
She stopped talking to me.
Were you ever aware of Lori believing that people could be dark or possessed by evil spirits?
I later have learned that, yes.
Did you ever try to tell your family about the beliefs that Lori had expressed to you?
Yes.
What was your family's reaction?
One of the reaction was, she's in a delusion, let her do whatever she's doing and she'll come out of it at some point.
How did this impact your relationship with your family when you're bringing up these concerns about Lori?
They basically cut me off.
So you bringing up your concerns about Lori's beliefs being at odds with the LDS religion sort of terminated your good relationship with your family.
Yes.
At the end of June of 2019, do you recall Charles sending you some emails that were purportedly written by him asking Chad Daybell to come out to Arizona and write a book for him?
Yes.
And did you, without going into it, did you review that email?
Yes.
Did you know Charles, what he had done in his life prior to selling insurance?
Yeah, I know that he played minor league baseball.
And in this email was the person pretending to be Charles asking about writing a book about his career?
Yes.
Was that something you knew Charles was not interested in?
No, he's not, or wasn't.
After you saw those emails that Charles had forwarded to you, where someone was reaching out to Chad, were they inviting Chad out to Arizona?
Yes.
After reading that and getting that forward and talking with Charles, did you believe that Lori was having an affair with Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Did you and Charles spend time talking about that?
Yes.
Was he kind of, I guess, in a tailspin? I'm not sure the best words to say from learning that.
Yeah, he seemed a little desperate.
Did Charles have some idea on how he thought he might be able to get Lori back into the LDS faith?
Yes.
What did you understand that to be?
Charles just thought that Lori was going overboard and that she was going to the temple like 5 times a week, and that's not normal in our religion, and that she was going a little off the wall. So he figured that if she got her temple recommend taken away from her, that she would come back to normal, who she was before she started in all this things that she was believing.
Now, you told us that you had heard yourself some ideas by Lori that were outside the LDS religion. Did Charles also tell you about other things that she had told him?
Yes.
Okay. And so, did Charles did you talk with Charles about something that we'll term an intervention?
Yes.
What did you mean by an intervention?
Intervention means Charles he's kind of desperate because nobody in our family would talk to him. I'm sure that, Lori had told people in our family not to talk to him. So he thought that, having an intervention would be getting in front of her, recording her, giving it to the stake president, or having the stake president hear what she was talking about and hear the crazy things that she was saying.
So the intervention was part of the way to try to get her to come back to the mainstream LDS beliefs.
Yes.
Did Charles ask you to help him with this intervention?
Yes, he did.
Did you guys have a specific plan, like on X date at X time, we're going to do this?
No.
Had you talked to Charles about potentially going to Lori's and recording her on your phone?
Yes.
Did you talk to Charles and text him about another idea of having a family dinner and again recording her so that you could play that for the stake president?
Yes.
We're using a term there, stake president. Who is that? What is that in your religion?
Well, in our religion, we have our churches organized where we have wards, and then like 4 or 5 wards are in a stake, and then there's a president of the stake, and so it's somebody who's in charge of everybody in the stake.
Okay. So someone that's pretty high up in the church.
Yes, yeah.
And so the idea was to bring any of these recordings to show she's saying these things to his attention.
Yes.
And again, the point of that whole was to just try to take away her temple recommend.
Yes.
So on July 9th of 2019, did Charles talk to you about him flying you out so that you can help him with this intervention?
Yes, he did.
And did he offer to purchase your flight
Yes.
to bring you to Arizona?
Yes.
At that time, did your parents live here in Arizona?
Yes, they did.
At that time, was Lori here in Arizona?
Yes, she was.
And you told us your brother Alex was living here as well at that time?
Yes.
Was your sister Summer also living here at that time?
Yes.
And after Charles purchased your tickets, did you reach out to anyone in your family to ask if you could stay with them?
Yes.
Who did you reach out to?
Alex, my brother.
And did he offer to let you stay with him?
Yes, he did.
Were you supposed to fly in on the next day, July 10th?
Yes.
So your understanding was when you flew in on the 10th, you'd reach out to Alex and you'd spend the night there.
Yes.
Did you end up staying with him?
No, I did not.
So when you landed in Phoenix on July 10th of 2019, do you recall what time of the day it was approximately?
Sometime around lunch.
Okay. And did you reach out to Alex?
Yes, I texted him as soon as I landed.
Did you get a text response back?
No, I did not.
Was that unusual?
Yes.
So he's expecting you, right?
Yes.
Did you try calling him?
Yes, I did.
Did he answer your phone?
No, he did not.
Again, was that unusual to you?
Yes.
Did you think anything was odd at that time?
Yeah, at first I was like, he can't be that busy. He knows I'm coming.
Did Alex ever respond to you on the 10th?
No.
So he ghosted you.
Yes.
What did you think when you didn't hear back from Alex?
I just thought it was very strange and bizarre.
Okay. So you were supposed to be staying at Alex's. When you talked to him on the 9th, did Alex ever text you between when you guys talked and when you landed saying, oh, I'm going to go stay at Lori's?
No.
Did Alex ever call or text you and tell you, you know, I can't have you stay with me. I know I initially said okay, but not anymore.
No.
So he just ignored you.
Yes.
Where'd you end up staying?
My mom and dad's house.
Okay. On July 10th, did you understand Charles was also flying into Phoenix?
Yes.
Did you see Charles on the 10th?
No, I did not.
Did you see your sister Lori on the 10th?
No, I did not.
So you told us you stayed with your parents. What did you do on the 10th?
They picked me up and we went to lunch, and then we just, I think, hung out at the house.
You said your son Zach lived here at the time?
Yes.
Who was he living with at that time?
I think he was living with my mom and dad.
Okay. So although you didn't talk with Charles on the 10th, did you have an understanding of what he was going to do the morning of the 11th?
Yes.
What was that?
He was going to go pick up JJ, his son. It was his turn to, I guess, have him for a few days or whatever.
Were Charles and JJ really close?
Yes.
So the morning of July 11th, you were not expecting to get together with Charles at 7 in the morning, right?
No.
Did you get a text message from Charles?
Yes, I did.
And did you learn where Alex was?
Yes, I did.
Where did you learn Alex was?
Alex was at Lori's house.
When you learned this, was Charles texting you sort of in real time as he is coming to the house,
Yes.
explaining to you what he's seeing and what's going on?
Yes.
And are you responding back to him?
Yes.
So you're at your mom and dad's house when you start getting these text messages from Charles?
Yes.
When you learned that Alex was at your sister's, what were you thinking?
I just thought something weird is happening because he never answered my text the whole day I was there, never returned a call. And then all of a sudden he said he's at Lori's house. And I didn't even know what to think at that point. I thought something was off.
So immediately you knew something was off.
Yeah.
From the prior day where Alex ghosted you to now he's at your sister's that morning when Charles was going over to pick up JJ.
Yes.
Were you concerned that Alex was at your sister's house?
A little concerning, yes.
Have you seen text messages that you and your brother-in-law Charles had sort of making the flight reservations and leading up to the morning of the 11th?
Yes.
And were those all messages that you two had as you're trying to figure out how to have this intervention?
Yes.
And then ultimately, what you are seeing and saying that morning at 7:30 in the morning?
Yes.
And I've shown defendant exhibit 210, if I can have a paralegal approach with that. Adam, if you can take a look at those and let me know if you recognize those as text messages that you had with Charles, sort of the 9th, 10th, and 11th, as you are interacting leading up to that morning and including the morning of the 11th.
Yes.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 210 pursuant to 8031 as present
objection?
sense impressions.
Yes, Your Honor, we object in lieu of that is a report and not the full extraction.
All right, well, may I see that particular objection wouldn't prohibit admission, it would go toward weight, but give me a second here. All right. I'll admit 210.
And if I may publish it then, Your Honor. And if I could have the elbow, thank you. Adam, I'm going to start sort of going back to, in Exhibit 210, the conversations that you and Charles were having as you're trying to come up with a way to have this intervention, all right? So you learned that Charles was reaching out. Well, let me ask you this. You had learned from Charles about this fictitious email, correct?
Yes.
Did you learn that Charles had reached out to Lori about it?
One more time?
Did you learn that Charles had reached out to Lori about this email?
Yes.
Did you learn that he had reached out to Chad Daybell's wife about it?
I think I remember that.
These are text messages. Were you also receiving emails from Charles?
Yes.
Does this sort of array of messages start to involve where you and Charles are talking about having you come out to Arizona to help with this intervention?
Yes.
And so do we see on the 9th you letting him know that you could fly out tomorrow and come home Saturday or Sunday?
Yes.
Do we see as you continued on, he tells you that he could fly you in on Southwest, and he's telling you he's just right now landing in LA, right?
Yes.
And you knew he traveled a lot for work.
Yes.
When we get to the 9th at 9:11 a.m., did you get a message from Charles about how you were going to get everyone together without Lori knowing that you're going to have this intervention?
Yes.
And is that one of the ideas where you indicated that I'll go see Lori at her house and have a talk with her and keep your phone on record?
Yes.
So that was sort of one idea of a potential way to show the stake president that she was having these ideas outside the LDS faith?
Yes.
Does Charles kind of tell you he's not sure that that's really going to work?
Yeah.
He says, I think she'll leave, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
Did you then suggest also have a family dinner with everyone? And then say, always leave my phone on to record what I say and what everyone else says?
Yes.
And then you go on to say that's to have proof for Holmes. Who's Holmes?
President Holmes. He was our stake president, or their stake president.
You were in Wichita, but he was the stake president here.
I lived here before, and he was in my ward, so I know him.
So when you're talking about the stake president, Holmes is who it actually is?
Yes.
Okay. On the 9th Does Charles tell you that, got it, but honestly, if you, Zach, Brandon, and me go to him, that should be enough? She will feel like we ambushed her, but something has to be done. She'll be real careful what she says. Had you brought Brandon into this yet? Like, did you have a plan to have him come with you?
No, but Brandon played basketball with us on that night. So me and Zach and Brandon played basketball where President Holmes played basketball at a church. So that was that reference.
Okay. So you thought, if we go to the church, Brandon will be there and he can help you
Yeah,
talk about
say
this.
that, yeah.
Okay. But Brandon's not part of this conversation right here, right?
No,
Then does it kind of go back to Charles asking for your information so he can make your flight reservations?
yes,
Okay. Then at 1:13 p.m., does Charles let you know that your flights are booked and that he emailed that to you? Mm-hmm. And then does he go on to say, I'm really uneasy about how she will respond, not only to you, but to me and Zach and Brandon, right?
yes.
In talking with Charles and this intervention, was there a constant concern of how she would respond to trying to take away her temple recommend?
Yes,
Was some of that based upon your understanding of the things she had said to Charles in the past?
that and others. Apparently Lori was flighty. When Charles tried to serve her divorce papers, she disappeared and nobody knew where she was. So in Charles's mind, that she could be flighty and just take off again where nobody would know where she is. So there was some definite reference to that as well.
Okay. Then it goes on to say, I'll pick up JJ and take him to school. So you knew what he was doing that next morning, right?
Yes,
And you said she'll be there, right?
Yes.
Friday the same. So you knew his idea was he was going to be with his son in the mornings, Thursday and Friday.
yes,
And then you said she'll be highly suspicious about recording. If you can bring a second device and put your phone on the counter or turn it off, it might help. Is that sort of the same idea that he was unsure that she would trust you showing up there and trying to ask her about those things?
yes. This was all just it seemed like Charles was just desperate, and he wanted to do anything he could this is last ditch effort to try to shake Lori loose of whatever she was under, some spell that he said. So, that's basically what happened.
And then does he go on again to talk about that he really thinks the only thing that's going to break her out of this is going to Holmes,
Yeah, yes,
and that she's hurting too many families and that he's upset his is gone?
yes,
Does he say that he still loves her?
yes,
And does he think that she's basically potentially gone forever?
yes,
And then we see that he corrected slots to Lori, right?
yes,
Typo.
yes. Lots of typos.
On July 10th at 3:34, do you get a text from Charles asking if you're in Phoenix?
Yes,
And do you respond, yes, you're going to Summers, and that you'll call him?
yes,
And then does Charles let you know he's got a meeting, but he'll try to call you before he goes to see Lowe? Who is Lowe?
Low is Lori.
So people would call her Lowe or Lolo.
Yes,
Do you remember if you talked to Charles on the 10th?
on the 10th, what day was that?
The day before, so when you flew in, did you ever talk to Charles?
No, I don't remember talking to him then.
So even though you guys had attempted to call, you don't recall if you ever spoke with him that evening or afternoon.
Right.
So at this point, you'd said you went to Summers in the text messages, and then later you stayed at your parents' for the night.
Yes.
And then you knew that Charles would be going to pick up his son the next morning. Did you assume that you and Charles would meet up or talk sometimes later that day?
I figured so.
Okay, but you had no scheduled timeline for that?
Nothing planned.
Okay. So next in Exhibit 210, we see text messages from July 11th of 2019 at 7:35 a.m. where Charles texted you, "Al is here." And then just a couple seconds later, he said, "at Lori's." Was this shocking to you?
Yes.
And what did you respond back? Did you say, "Really, I wonder why he never called me back"?
Yes.
And then we see that you wrote at 7:36 and 28 seconds, "they are planning something." Why did you write that?
Because Alex not answering his phone the whole day and me calling him and texting him, not knowing where he's at. Nobody in my family said they heard from him or knew where he was. All that is very suspicious to me. And then Alex being at Lori's house that morning felt like something was really off.
So when you told Charles they're planning something, Charles responded back, "absolutely." Did you then let him know that you were supposed to spend the night at Alex's house? She probably blocked that.
Yes.
Did Charles respond to you, "what you do is up to you"?
Yes.
So were you kind of upset at your brother for telling you you could stay with him and then ghosting you, ignoring you?
Yes.
Were you upset at him for being at Lori's house when Charles was going there just to pick up JJ?
Yes.
Did you then text him, "I'm going to put the pressure on to have him come get me right now, see what he says"?
Yes.
Did you in fact text your brother?
Yes.
Did he respond back?
No.
As we're going along here, we see that each of these are being read sort of in this short period of time, these couple minutes that Charles is here as he's driving in. After you texted Charles about putting the pressure on to have him come get me right now, did you then say okay to Charles?
Yes.
And then we see again that at 7:49:34 a.m., you texted Charles, "me and Zach are going to the Stake Center tonight at 8 to play basketball. Holmes is always there, either playing ball or interviewing people. I will try to catch him and have a conversation with my old friend."
Yes.
What was that about?
That was just part of the plan that Charles initially came up with to somehow get in front of the stake president. That night, he's the stake president. He interviews people for Temple Recommends and also plays basketball afterwards. So that was just a thought of maybe this could be something that we could do to help with that situation.
Okay. Now, up until 7:37 and 7, you had been interacting with Charles, right? You would respond and you were getting some text messages back from him.
Yes.
We see after 7:37 where he texts you, "what you do is up to you," that he didn't respond back to any of your other comments, right?
Right.
So when you sent him at 7:37 and 29 seconds that you're going to put the pressure on him, you meant Al?
Yes, Alex.
to come get you, Charles didn't respond to that?
No.
And in fact, it shows that that message was read at 12:13 p.m. versus the earlier messages that were read sort of right in time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And when you told Charles that you and Zach were going to go to the stake center to play basketball and see if you could find homes, did you get a response from Charles?
No.
And again, we see that that was read at 12:13, correct?
Yes.
Did you go talk with Holmes that night?
I went to go play basketball, but he wasn't there.
Was it just you and Zach?
Yes.
During the day of July 11th, at any time, did you learn that Charles Vallow had been shot?
No.
So Lori did not call you and tell you that Charles had been shot?
No.
Alex didn't call you to tell you that he'd shot your brother-in-law?
No.
Anyone in your family talked to you about it?
Nope.
How about the next day, Friday, July 11th? Did Lori tell you Charles had been shot?
No.
Alex contact you to tell you that he'd shot Charles?
No.
Anyone in your family talk to you about that?
No.
Did you decide to go visit a friend in Tucson on Saturday the 13th now?
Yes.
What were you going down there for?
Going to see my friend Eric.
And did anyone come with you?
Yes, Zach did, my son.
Okay. When you went down there, did you talk with Eric about what's going on?
Yeah, I just thought it was really fishy that I heard from Charles. And I didn't know if he took JJ and just was having one-on-one time with JJ. I didn't know if Lori and him were getting back together and Lori told him not to talk to me. Or my mind was spinning. Like, I had no clue what was going on.
Had you talked to any of your family about it? Were you still keeping that intervention thing secret from them at that point?
No, at that point, but I think nobody had heard from, I asked if anybody had heard from Alex, and nobody said that they heard from Alex in my family. But at that point, I was there spending time with my son, Zach, also to help Charles with what he wanted to try to get an intervention with Lori, and also to see my friend Eric, because I live in Wichita, so I was trying to do 3 things at one time on my short visit.
So on the 11th or 12th, though, were you still keeping that sort of secret that you and Charles had been wanting to do an intervention on Lori?
Yes.
You weren't telling your family, like, I don't know why we're not doing this.
Charles asked me not to tell anybody.
And was that actually sort of a message you guys had talked about of who in your family might prevent any type of intervention?
Yes.
And who in your family were you guys concerned with if they learned about the intervention might try to stop it?
Mom and Dad, Summer.
Alex, too?
Alex, yes.
So even though you're here and you're seeing your family and you're seeing your son, you don't want to tell them a lot about Charles because you're trying to still keep that quiet in case he does want to go forward with it.
Exactly, yes.
So you're in Tucson and you start talking to your friend about Charles.
Yes.
Do you learn at some point that Charles has been killed?
Yes. I was talking with Eric saying something doesn't feel right. I haven't heard from Charles, and usually he would text me or send me a message or something. And then Eric asked me, he goes, well, what's his last name? And I said, Vallow. And he was on his computer and he just Googled Charles Vallow. And he said it popped up that he's been killed by his brother-in-law.
So you learn this. What is going through your mind now?
Just everything, chaos. at a knot in my stomach. Just probably one of the worst feelings I've ever felt in my life.
Obviously, you had been concerned that something was being planned when you told Charles that on the morning of the 11th, right? But
Well,
not that.
not that, but yeah, it felt like something was off. That why Alex would be at Lori's house that morning.
Did you know your brother Alex to carry guns with him?
Yes,
Did he regularly go shooting with guns?
yes,
Prior to Charles being shot and killed, did you ever tell Lori that you were going to be trying to do this intervention with her?
no,
Prior to Charles being shot, did you ever tell Alex, hey, I'm going to stay with you, but we're trying to do an intervention with Lori?
no,
What about your parents? Did you ever tell them you were going to try to do an intervention?
no,
Your sister Summer?
no,
So if your sister told detectives a couple hours after Charles was shot that she was confronting Charles about you and Charles talking and texting, it wasn't something that you told her about.
no,
You told us that you are LDS. Have you ever taught Sunday school?
yes.
Can you tell us about the story of Nephi?
Nephi? Well, Nephi was a prophet in the Book of Mormon. It's the first chapter. He was a prophet, very humble and faithful servant of the Lord. Ironically enough, his brothers tried to kill him at one point. But he actually ended up going to Jerusalem to get these plates back, and he was run off, came back, and then went back again because the Lord asked him to. And when he did, the King Laban, who was actually a wicked king, was laying on the ground drunk in front of him, and Nephi was told to kill Laban.
Who was he told by?
The spirit, or God.
So God was using a Holy Spirit to tell him to kill Laban, and did
Yes.
he?
Yes, he did.
Was that something he anguished over?
Yes,
But ultimately, it was a justified killing.
yes,
So was the concept that it was better for Nephi to kill this one evil man and sort of benefit the nation and his descendants?
yes,
Were you aware that that your sister had told people that Charles was possessed by evil spirits?
yes,
Were you aware that your sister had told people that your brother-in-law Charles was dark?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
It's whether or not he was aware of it.
Whether or not
Yes or
he's
no?
aware, he can answer yes or no.
yes,
When you and Charles were talking about this intervention, were you trying to help your sister come back to mainstream LDS beliefs?
yes,
So it wasn't just Charles, but also her.
yes,
You told us that your friend had Googled and learned that Charles was killed. Did you know at that time it was by your brother Alex?
that's what the article said. So yes, he told me that.
What did you do after you learned that?
Freaked out for a little bit, cried, didn't know what to do, thought my world was coming apart. Then I got angry a little bit, and then called I think first thing I did, I called Kay, who's Charles's sister, and asked her, because she's the only one that I felt safe calling after knowing my family was involved in this or thinking of this, that I asked her if she knew that Charles was dead, and she said she just learned of it too.
Did you learn from your friend when, because it's now the 13th when you learned this, right?
Yes.
Did you learn when that happened?
Yes, I did.
So you knew on that Saturday, the 13th, that Charles had been killed that morning
Yes.
of July 11th.
Yes.
Did you ever come back to Phoenix and confront anyone in your family about this or talk to them about it?
Yes. After I talked to Kay, then I called my mom and asked her if she knew that Charles was dead. And she said yes. And I said, what's going on? And she said, you tell me what's going on. And at that point, I thought that was bizarre that she would say that. So I said, well, we need to sit down and talk. And she said, yes, we do. And so me and Zach got in the car and drove back to Phoenix.
Did you go to your mom's house?
Yes, I did.
Did that conversation go well?
No.
Did this create a break in your relationship with your mom?
Yes.
Did you stick up for Charles?
Yes.
Did sticking up for Charles create issues between you and most of your family?
Yes.
Did you continue to stick up for Charles even with that happening?
Yes.
After you had that argument with your mom, what did you do?
Me and Zach left her house, and we were staying at Summer's house, my sister, who was away on vacation. And we were staying at her house, and we went back to her house. We were watching her dog.
You were supposed to leave the next morning, Sunday, to go back to Wichita. Did you return back home?
Yes, we did.
Did your son go with you this time?
Yes, he did.
After this whole incident happened, did you not talk with your family for a long time?
Yes.
Did it cause a lot of friction in your family?
Yes.
Have you started to try to talk with your family some?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Cross?
Mr. Cox, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person?
Don't know.
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
So, has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6
Something like
years,
that.
7 years, 8 years?
Something?
Okay, so you have no idea.
Nope.
You have no idea when the last time you saw me in person.
I don't know the year or how many years it's been.
Okay, so did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding.
No, I did not.
So did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house.
I did see you at that house, yes.
At least one time.
Yes.
So possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay, so you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
Okay. And when was the last time that we had a phone call or text message
I have no idea.
Could it possibly be around that exact same time?
Possibly.
Okay. So that was possibly in early 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think initiated the final communication in our relationship?
Who concluded it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So right now it's 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we haven't spoken in about 8 years? Would that be correct?
Probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So would you say up until that point that how often would we communicate before that?
Before what?
Before 2018?
Probably on a regular basis. Once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month.
Like a call or a text message?
Yes.
Just keeping in touch?
Yes.
You know of us living in Hawaii and you were living in Kansas at the time?
Yes.
And in your career, you lived in lots of different places, is that correct?
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Wichita,
Yes.
Sacramento.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Others.
And I was in Texas,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So would you say that we were not physically close during the past 20 years?
Yes, I would say that.
So our communication would be solely family get-togethers, occasional text messages. Is that correct?
And phone calls, yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again?
Okay. Did you see with your eyes or hear with your ears or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect?
Have you talked to your sister since Charles was shot and killed?
No.
So, since that happened, you cut off all communications with her?
Yes.
Prior to that, you were being asked about 2018 being at Lori and Charles's house. Was that the time where Lori told you she was becoming a celestial being?
Yes.
And the time where she was telling you other ideas that were not in line with the LDS faith?
Yes.
After you had heard those statements by your sister, you told us that she had asked you if you thought she was crazy, right?
Yes.
And you had responded back how?
I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true.
After you told her that her beliefs were not true, did that sort of end your talking with her?
Yes.
You were asked if you personally saw, heard your sister Lori conspire to kill Charles. Were you there that morning?
No.
Were you the person who was supposed to, though, be with Alex on the 10th into the morning of the 11th? You spent the night with him?
If I would have spent the night with him, yes.
So that stood out to you because you had made plans with your brother, right?
Yes.
And instead, you learned he was at Lori's house.
Yes.
You told us that you thought it was odd that your brother would be over at your sister's house at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And you were aware that your brother had guns.
Yes.
Charles was going there to pick up JJ, right?
Yes.
And so, did it seem odd to you that your brother would bring a gun that was loaded with extra magazines that was not safe to your sister's house where JJ was?
Objection, out of scope. This is not just
Goes to the
a
conspiracy.
redirect. This is not just a redirect.
Hey, I didn't ask for argument. Okay. The objection's overruled.
What's the question?
Sure. Did it stand out to you that your brother, who knew JJ, would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition to the house where JJ was running around?
Well,
It wasn't-
I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
You're saying afterwards?
Yeah, you learned afterwards your brother killed him, right?
Yes.
And when we're talking about this conspiracy and things that are going on, did that seem odd to you that your brother would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition in this unsafe way to a house where your, sister's son, JJ, lived?
Yeah, it seemed extreme.
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning. Lori talking crazy about how she's a translated being. All these things all added up into that moment and that morning. Once I found out on Saturday that Charles was shot and killed, no doubt in my mind that they killed him. That's a feeling that I got.
And you told your family that?
Yes.
No other questions?
The last line of questioning from the possession of the gun on, I think the defendant's right, was technically beyond the scope of her cross. So based on that, I'll allow the defendant, if she wants to recross on those issues, if she elects to, may do so now.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, are there any questions from any member of the jury? Not seeing any, sir, you can step down. You can step down. Thanks.
Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Serena Sharp.
I'm going to have you pull in a little or move the mic down a little closer to you so we can hear you. Thank you. How old are you, Serena?
How old am I? 51.
And where are you living currently? What state, what city?
Arizona, Queen Creek.
And where did you live back in 2019, 2018?
Connecticut.
Okay. When did you move to Arizona?
It was right before COVID, so 2019.
Do you recall, I know we don't have a lot of weather here, but summer, winter, fall?
Definitely summer. This is hot. I think it was end of July, August, but we closed on our house September.
Are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes.
Were you raised in this church?
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about a group, Preparing the People. Have you ever attended any of their events?
Yes. Two.
Can you tell us what those are?
They were conferences that helped people prepare physically and spiritually for emergency preparedness and the second coming of the Lord.
And you said you attended a couple of those conferences?
Yes.
Are they located sort of around the country?
Yes.
Did you ever attend one of those conferences here in Arizona?
I did.
Do you recall when that was?
It was November of 2018.
When you decided to come to this conference in November of 2018, did you know anyone here?
Two people, one just from over the phone conversations, Melanie Gibb and Jason Mao.
So did you have any place to stay when you came here? What was your thoughts as you're coming in for this conference?
Both of them invited me to stay at their homes.
And what was your plan? Who did you think you were going to stay with?
I thought I was going to stay with Melanie Gibb because she offered to pick me up at the airport as well, so that I didn't need to rent a car.
Did you know Arizona well?
Not at all, no.
So were you picked up by Melanie Gibb?
Yes,
And did you stay at her house?
no.
Where did you stay?
After she picked me up, she said that instead of her house, because her whole family was home and it was busy and chaotic, we were going to stay at her friend's house, whose family was gone for the weekend and had a bunch of people for the conference staying there.
Okay. Who was that?
That was Lori.
Did you know her last name, or did you learn it?
I learned it when I got there. I had never heard or had met her before.
What was her last name?
Vallow?
Okay. So you told us you didn't know Lori Vallow prior to just coming to stay at her house.
No.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's right there with glasses on and blonde hair and a black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It shall.
Do you recall who else was staying at Lori's house that weekend?
There was a lot of people, and I was meeting everybody for the first time, so I don't recall everybody, but I do know Lori was there and Melanie was there.
Did you ever meet Chad Daybell?
Yes, he was there as well.
Was that the first time you met him?
Yes.
So during this event, are you going between Lori's home and to a location where the conference is at?
Correct.
Okay. And did you ever talk with Chad Daybell outside of, did you ever talk with him that weekend?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever talk with him after that November 2018 conference here in Arizona?
Yes.
When else did you see or talk with him?
I saw him at another Preparing a People conference in February.
So that's 2019 now,
Yes.
after the November one.
Correct.
Where was that one?
That was in Idaho.
And did you ever contemplate moving to Idaho?
Yes.
Did you ever meet with him in Idaho did you learn he lived there?
Yeah. When did I learn?
Did you learn that he lived in Idaho?
Yes.
And did you ever, in fact, meet with him in Idaho to kind of talk about possibly moving there?
Yes, I was actually house hunting with a realtor and in the city that he lived, so we connected for a few minutes.
What city was that?
Rexburg?
Did you know if Chad was married at that time?
Yes.
When you were staying at Lori's house in Phoenix in November of 2018, did you understand her to be married?
Yes.
At that time, did you have any idea that Lori and Chad were having an affair?
No idea.
After you met Lori at this and stayed at her house, did you have any more conversations with her, texts or phone calls?
Yes.
Were you ever invited back out to Arizona?
Yes.
When was that?
That was in March of 2019 for a girls' weekend.
What was the girls' weekend going to be?
It was a few girls coming together for a girls' weekend, so
Whose house, where was it going to be?
that was at Zulema's house, and I think from my memory, she's the one who invited me and started that girls' weekend idea.
Had you met Zulema before?
Yes.
Where had you met her?
I met, it's vague, but I think I met her at the first Preparing a People conference I came to, which was the November 2018 here in Arizona.
Okay. And had you talked with her as well between that November time and when you came out in March?
Yes.
Who else was part of this girls' weekend that you recall?
It was Lori and Melanie Gibb, Zulema, Christina, Nicole, and myself. I think that's it.
Now, were all of you women members of the LDS Church?
Yes.
During this time, did Lori ever tell you things about her beliefs that seemed to go against what you understood or what you were taught through the LDS Church?
Yes.
Did Lori ever tell you that she did not need to repent?
Yes, she did.
What does repenting mean?
Repenting means turning to God and confessing our sins and repairing our relationship with Him so that He can take on our sins for us and we can become better people through Him and seek His forgiveness.
Do you recall what Lori told you about not needing to repent anymore?
What I remember is she's had a couple of verses in the Bible that she pulled out and read and then said, I believe something to the effect of, I believe we don't need to repent anymore.
Did that stand out to you?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Was that
That was
concerning
shocking.
to you?
Pardon?
Was that concerning to you?
Very.
I think you just said you were shocked by it.
Yes.
It was that against your religion.
Correct.
Did she ever express to you and this group that all of you might not need to repent?
I don't remember the specifics of it. If she was trying to apply that to us or just to her, I don't remember. I just remember she said we, or generally, I don't remember the specific words she used, but that there was not a need for repentance anymore.
Do you recall, have you been interviewed by the police a couple different times?
Yes.
Do you recall being interviewed in April of 2021?
Was that was the Chandler Police
At the
Department?
police department instead of at your home?
Yes.
Do you recall saying to the detectives then that she said, "We don't need to repent anymore. We've come to that stage." And then you were asked when she said "we," was she talking about like her and Chad or all you guys? And you said she was trying to get all of us to believe that. Do you recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that, but if that's in the transcripts, that was much closer to the time when it was said. It's been a few years. I don't remember exactly what was said anymore.
So your memory back then would have been better than now?
For sure.
So if you had told the police back then that she was trying to, in fact, tell everyone that you could follow along with this belief of not repenting, you would have been truthful to the police back then.
Of course, yes.
Do you recall Lori ever talking to you about people having dark and light levels assigned to them?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall Lori ever talking about not needing to repent because she was translated?
I don't remember her using that specific word, but that turned off.
What do you recall her saying with regards to that?
I remember her talking about changing physically and spiritually. Those are the two I remember.
And by changing physically, what do you recall of that?
Just being filled with more light and knowledge so that we could become closer to God.
So is that sort of the same as when we're talking about being translated?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't remember her saying that specific word.
Okay. So the concept was the same, whether or not she said that word, you don't recall now.
Correct.
Did Lori ever talk to you, either that weekend or prior to that, about casting?
Yes.
Do you recall if Lori was the person who brought up casting?
I believe she was, from my memory.
Do you recall if she talked to you about casting on more than one occasion?
Yes.
Now, how many times do you recall that she had brought this up?
I don't know how many times.
It was more than once?
Yes, it was more than once.
Did she ever bring it up while you were talking or Zoom talking like we used to do in the pandemic?
I never Zoom called with her. I
Did you
don't.
phone call?
Phone calls? Yes.
So at least one phone call you recall that she brought up casting?
But I remember one phone call. There might have been others. I just don't remember.
So was that phone call, to the best of your memory, before this girls' weekend in March of 2019?
From my memory, I think it was after. But
So then let's talk about the weekend of March, the girls' weekend in March of 2019.
okay.
Did Lori bring up casting there?
Yes, she did.
And the other time when Lori had talked about casting, whether it was before or after, was this to sort of cleanse society, sort of a generic, I don't want to say generic, but to try to cleanse evil from an area or a population, not a specific person?
Yes, it was like generally a cleanse or casting out evil.
Have you on your own sort of prayed to get rid of evil?
Yes, I have.
Is that sort of a personal casting that you've done? if we want to term it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't term it that way, but yes.
Okay. Would you just term it as you're praying for the better of the world?
Praying and or casting out evil, yes, in the name of Jesus Christ.
But you said you had never used casting as a term before.
No.
So Lori was the one using this word casting.
I don't recall her using that word. I think she was also saying casting out from my memory.
So casting out. When you met up on this girls'
I'm
weekend,
sorry, was the last answer a yes?
this was the first, I guess, Lori was the one using the term casting out.
Yes.
On this March girls' weekend trip, do you recall having Lori ask everyone to help cast out as to a specific person?
Yes.
Can you tell us who that was?
It was her husband, Charles.
Had you ever met Charles before?
Vague memory, but it was a quick, I think, meet as I was leaving Arizona for the Preparing a People conference in November. I was going to the airport, and I think he was coming in at the same time. Again, it was pretty chaotic,
Yeah.
but I think that's when we met very briefly.
So he was kind of coming home and you were leaving.
Yes.
Okay. Did this seem unusual to you to do this, to be asked to cast out as to a specific person?
Yes, but not. Did you say unusual?
Did it stand out to you, her asking you to cast out as to her husband?
Yes, it stood out to me.
During this weekend, did Lori talk to you about her husband, Charles Vallow, being possessed?
Yes, she did.
What do you recall about her talking about her husband being possessed?
I recall that she spoke about her husband being possessed by an evil spirit, and she named the evil spirit.
Do you recall what the name was?
Yes,
What was it?
it was Ned,
N-E-D? Ned?
N-E-D.
When you heard this, did that stand out to you as well?
Very much, yes. Very unusual.
Are you someone who questions things? Or do
Yeah.
you just go with the flow?
I question things.
So you're hearing these things from Lori that are standing out to you, some of them very against your religious beliefs. Are you starting to ask about some of these things?
Yes. I remember I was asking a lot of questions about the repentance thing she brought up. And I remember asking and talking to some of the other ladies about the casting out in a group setting before, or stuff like that.
Do you recall Lori Vallow telling you that her husband Charles was no longer Charles, that he was now this possessed person?
Yes.
When Lori was talking to you about Ned, was she explaining that this evil spirit was now in the body of her husband?
I don't know if she used those exact terms, but that was the impression I got, yes.
So the word she used expressed to you that idea that this evil spirit Ned was now in her husband's body.
Yes.
So did you ever hear Lori use the term zombie?
I did.
Is that another thing that kind of stuck out to you?
Very much.
In listening to Lori, did zombie sort of did you understand that to mean someone whose body was possessed by an evil spirit?
Prior to this, I thought zombie was like a Hollywood thing, but she tried to relate the zombie and correlate that to the evil spirit that was inside of somebody,
Like her husband?
like her husband, yes.
Did you ever start to question Lori about zombies and these evil spirits inhabiting her husband's body? Did you try to question her about that?
I don't recall specifically.
When you started questioning her, at least about repenting that you recall, did you see a difference in how you were treated?
Soon after that girls' weekend, yes.
So let's talk about the group casting. What happened? What did you guys do for this group casting for her husband, Charles?
All the ladies came together and we were all in the same room just talking. And I remember coming together. I don't remember if we were standing or sitting, but I remember Lori started and asked for this help for her husband because she needed to cast out this evil spirit. And she asked to just go around the room and each of us take turns casting out to see if we could get rid of this evil spirit within him.
Ned. And this was the first time you'd ever had anyone ask you to be part of some group to cast out,
Yes.
and a group to cast out an evil spirit as to a specific person.
I've never done that in a group setting before. Never even heard of that before.
After this weekend, let me ask you, how many days do you recall that you were here?
For which?
That March?
That March?
Yeah.
Just a couple days. I don't recall how many. Just a couple days, though.
Okay. So
Like a weekend, maybe?
just the weekend type of thing.
Approximately.
During that time, do you recall just the one evening where Lori had asked you and the other women to cast out this evil spirit and her husband? Was there just one incident that weekend that you recall?
One incident. I'm sorry, I don't understand the
Over
question.
the March Girls Weekend, was there just the one time where Lori asked the group to cast out Ned from her husband?
From my memory, yes, I think so.
Had you heard on, though, more than one occasion, Lori saying that her husband was possessed?
More than one occasion on that weekend, or like,
Or either that weekend, or had you previously heard that?
I don't recall previously hearing that. And I don't remember hearing it after how many times she said that.
Was it discussed throughout the weekend?
I believe so.
Introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Kay Woodcock, Charles Vallow's younger sister.
How old are you?
How old am I today?
Today.
64.
And are you married?
Yes.
Where do you currently live?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
I want to talk to you about your siblings. You told us that you are Charles's sister. How many siblings were there in your family?
6.
And where did Charles fall into that?
He was number 3.
Who are the other siblings?
My oldest sister Terry, then my next sister Susan, then Charles, then Jerry, then me, then Bobby.
And where did you guys grow up?
We're in Lake Charles.
Were you close with your brother?
Yes, I was.
Did you know his wife, Lori Vallow?
Yes, I do.
Can you point her out in the courtroom and tell us what she's wearing?
She's the defendant over there in the black jacket.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It shall.
I want to talk to you sort of about Lori and Charles. Were you at their wedding?
No, they went to Las Vegas.
Do you recall what year they got married?
2006.
Did they have a reception that,
I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but there was a family gathering in March of 2006 at a ranch in near Austin, Texas, that we all went to.
okay, kind of to celebrate that?
Yes,
Had your brother Charles been married before?
yes,
Did he have any children from his prior marriage?
yes.
How many?
2.
And who were they?
Cole Vallow and Zach Vallow.
And did you know if Lori had any children from a prior marriage?
Yes, Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan.
When Lori and Charles got married, did Charles's 2 sons live with them?
Live with Charles and Lori?
Yeah.
No.
Did they stay with their mother?
Yes, they did. They visited, but they never lived there.
Where were they? Was that in Arizona or still in Texas?
In Austin.
I want to ask you sort of some of the ages of the children involved. In July of 2019, was Tylee still a minor?
Yes,
So she was still living with them.
yes,
In July of 29, do you know if Colby was still a minor?
yes. Oh, wait, no, Colby was not.
He was an adult at
He
that
was
point.
an adult.
And in July of 2019, were Charles's 2 sons, Cole and Zach, still minors or adults?
They were adults.
Okay. Did Charles and Lori have any children together?
They adopted my grandson, JJ.
And can you tell us how that worked out?
How that worked out,
Or
meaning
how did they get involved in adopting your grandchild?
Charles approached me about it one day. He called, and I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on then, and that was my son's child, and there was a lot going on. So I just told him then, look, I can't make a decision like that. We don't know how this is going to go. Just, well, just keep me in mind. Keep it in mind. And so I kept it in mind.
And do you recall, when did they adopt JJ?
It was final in July of 2014.
How old was he then?
He was 2.
Did JJ have any special needs?
Yes, he was autistic, and he was born 10 weeks premature.
Okay. So he took a little extra care.
He did, absolutely.
Do you recall, so if he was 2 and they adopted him, how old was he in July of 2019?
He was 7. We spent his 7th birthday together in Lake Charles.
So in July of 2019, to your knowledge, Lori and Charles still had 2 children under the age of 18 with them, Tylee and JJ?
Yes,
So if in July of 2019, Lori Vallow was saying she had 5 kids she was taking care of, you were unaware of the other 3?
there were not 5 there, no. There were 2.
Can you tell us about the relationship between Charles and JJ?
Charles was the best dad. I mean, he was always doting on him. The arrangement I figured out eventually was that if Charles was working out of town, Lori had him all by herself, and so when Charles got back to town, JJ was his to take care of, 100%.
Would Charles bring JJ to visit your side of the family in Louisiana?
Oh, yes.
Did you regularly see him?
Yes, once JJ learned how to fly, and, excuse me, I need water. Once JJ learned how to fly, and, you know, that he was, because he was autistic, something like that is, you know, a big deal for him, and he loved it, so he was a little flyer. He loved to go in the airplane.
What did your brother Charles do for a living?
He sold annuities. He was a financial planner.
And how long did you know him to do that?
If I had to guess, 20 years, I guess.
Did he work for others or have his own business? What do you recall?
He had his own business.
Had he previously any times ever worked for others?
Yes,
But in July of 2019, he had his own business.
yes.
Did he have a business partner?
He did, yes.
Did his job require him to travel a lot?
He did. He would be gone 3 or 4 days a week, on average. Sometimes he didn't have to travel, but he was just, but yeah, he would be gone 3 or 4 days a week when he would be working.
I want to ask you a little bit about Charles. Was he sort of a meticulous person when it came to paperwork?
Oh, yes. I mean, for when you're doing that type of work, you have to be meticulous and methodical, and you can't make any errors. You can't miss a dot or crossing a T, because it will get kicked back to you, and then it just causes a lot of delay and a lot of trouble. So he was actually, he said, there was never anybody I've ever trusted to do this for me. And I was like, well, I'll do it for you, because,
All right, we'll stop here.
yeah.
So when Charles was working as financial planner, do you know if he had Lori help him with any part of his job?
I don't really know exactly what she did, but yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what she did.
Prior to Charles being a financial advisor, did he have a very different career in sports?
Oh, he was, he quit, I don't know if, I don't remember because I was quite young then, but he did, I believe he was drafted in the early 70s into the Houston Astros minor league.
So when you were growing up, did you see your brother playing baseball?
I was raised at a baseball field. If it wasn't Charles, Jerry played for years, my other brother, but Charles stuck with it, and that's how he got to college with a degree, with a scholarship.
So you got stuck many a night and a weekend having to be at the ball field with your brother.
Yes.
What position did your brother play?
He was a pitcher. He was very, very good. He was a left-handed pitcher, and they're very hard to hit against.
Okay. Did he bat right or left-handed?
He was left-handed.
Did he do everything left-handed?
Yes.
Left-handed? After your brother, well, let me ask you, do you know how long he played in the semi-pro?
I don't, he had moved to Houston, and but he blew out his knee, and that's ended that right there.
Did your brother stay in shape after that, even though he blew out his knee?
Oh, yes, he was always doing something, always. Bike riding, hiking, just anything. Gym, all, he was very active.
So every time you saw him, he was taking care of himself.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about religion. Did your family grow up in the LDS church or faith?
No, we did not.
Did you know Charles to ever convert to the LDS faith?
He did at some point during his marriage to Lori.
Okay. Um, When Lori and Charles were married, did you know, did they always live in one state or did they move?
No, they lived here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, Chandler, Gilbert, and then they moved to Hawaii in 2014, and then they moved back late 2016 or early 2017.
Back to,
Oh, back here to Phoenix area.
do you recall where they were, what state they were in when they met?
When Charles and Lori met, they
Yeah.
were in Texas.
Texas, okay. In 2018 and 19, you told us that Charles and JJ would come visit you and the family regularly.
Yes,
In March of 2018, did you have a member of your family pass away?
yes, my mother did in March of 18.
Did Charles come out for that?
Yes, he did. He was there for her services. Lori was not, and we felt like something was going on. Well, actually, my husband felt it before I did, and then when she didn't show for my mother's funeral, I just thought that was just appalling. It appalled me that she wouldn't even come to something like that with her husband.
What was your relationship like with Lori?
Because of the work I did, the company we owned, I was on the phone an extreme amount of time, all the time. So I really don't like to call people. I'm not a phone person. I'll text you all day long, but I really don't like to talk. And so Lori and I never really had a big phone relationship. It was a text here and there, but mostly Charles would keep me up to date as to different things that were going on, or what they were up to, or Charles would call. Yeah, Charles would call me mostly.
So you weren't, it sounds like you weren't close with her.
When Lori and I were together, it was like we hadn't missed a minute. We just took up where we left off, and she's very outgoing, and she's very friendly and very easy to talk to, and so we got along rather well, and I loved her.
Okay. So continuing in 2018, do you recall seeing Charles and JJ coming out to visit you guys in October of 2018?
Yes,
What was that for?
just a weekend visit.
Okay. What about in November of 2018? Did you see Charles and JJ then?
We did. My husband and myself and my granddaughter, we went to Las Vegas, and Charles and JJ met us there for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I thought that was odd. He wasn't with his family. He said Lori was sick, or Tylee was sick, is what he told us, but he just wouldn't share what all was going on at that point. Then when he finally did, he unloaded it all.
So in 2018, did you have any idea there were any let me say this. In 2018, did you have some concerns about their relationship?
Yes, it was, for him to come as often as they were coming, was odd, and just, he was just unsettled, and we knew something was going on, but he would never say. So he did, he talked to us when he was ready.
When we get into 2019, did you start to see your brother more?
Yes.
First, without going into what Charles said, did you ever become aware finally that his marriage with Lori was in trouble?
Yes, I did.
In 2019, again, without going into what Charles said, did you ever believe that Charles was concerned for his safety?
Charles was absolutely concerned for his safety. Lori had sent me a text, I think it was on a Thursday, that she and Charles were fighting because of some stuff she came up with, and that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel. Well, I guess Tylee was, I'm not sure. And because she didn't want to have any fighting, so they went to a hotel. And I came out. I knew Charles the next day. That's when she sent it to me, and then I just really didn't. I didn't call Charles. I knew he'd call me, and he sure enough did. And he was a mess, and so I flew out the next day out here to help him with JJ, and just to come and talk to him and see what was going on. He was alone, and Lori's family turned their backs on him and JJ. Okay.
Let's just kind of break it all down.
All right.
Now, you got a lot that you remember. So you said that you got a text from Lori indicating that she and JJ and Tylee were at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that Charles then called you maybe the next day,
Yeah.
and you came out here to Arizona.
Yes.
When you came out here to Arizona, did you become aware at that point that there was a big problem now with their relationship?
There was a huge problem now with their relationship.
And during this time when you had come out here, do you remember approximately when that was?
Like the 1st of February of 2019, or the 2nd. It was right in there.
When you came out here, did you then speak with Charles about his concerns for his safety? Just yes or no?
About his what?
His concerns for his safety.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's just yes. Is this the time where, well, let me ask it this time. When you came out here, did you see Lori?
No.
When you came out here, did anyone know where Lori was?
No, nobody was talking about where she was. Nobody would tell Charles where she was.
So your brother was trying to find where she was?
Yes, he was.
Where was JJ at this time?
He was with Charles, and that's one of the reasons I came out was to help him with JJ, because he was quite a handful, and Charles was a mess. He was broken. He was a broken-hearted man.
So you come out here, Charles has JJ. Where's Tylee? Do you know?
She's, as far as we knew, she was staying at Lori's brother's. That's what we knew then.
Okay. Did you have any interaction with her?
No.
How long did Charles have JJ where he's looking for Lori and can't find her?
Well, that portion of the time was 58 days, and I knew how many days it was because every day Charles would say something. He would tell me.
So he was counting them.
He would count them.
Were you out here the whole time? What'd you do?
I could work remotely at the time, so I did stay out here a lot, often, but I would fly back. I was back and forth between Louisiana and here from from February until the end of March, because at that point, we moved Charles to Houston.
So the end of March, you said you were moving Charles to Houston. Was that with JJ?
Yes,
Why was Charles going to be, why are you helping him move to Houston?
because Charles told me that Lori did not want JJ anymore, or Kylie, or him. And I said, okay, well, look, what if you move to Houston and I'll be 2.5 hours away, and when you go out of town, I'll come and stay with JJ. And so he was talking about hiring a nanny, and I said, no, I will be the nanny, and I'll come and take care of him when you have to work. And it's easy enough, and you won't have to pay a penny.
So when Charles has JJ, you're helping take care of JJ in this time period in February and March.
Yes.
What about Charles's business? Did you help with that at all?
Yes, I had to get my arms around the whole thing. All the payments that needed to be made, the accounts, the emails, all that stuff you have to change over and change the password and all that, so Lori couldn't access it any longer.
You said you had your own job. What were you doing at that time in addition to helping your brother?
My husband and I owned a coastal crew change. It was a transportation company for the offshore oil and gas and LNG industry.
Okay. So you're trying to work that job and help Charles with his business.
Yes, I had a really great assistant who helped me an awful lot.
Do you remember when you were packing up to move Charles to Houston?
Yes.
You there?
I was there.
Did Lori show back up?
She did. I was in the pantry in the kitchen, packing up the pantry, and I don't know what, just something caught my attention, and I walked out, and she was standing there. She had her back to me. Charles was sitting at the table on his phone, and he obviously didn't realize that she was there. And then finally, when he hung up, he looked up, and there she was, and he started crying, and she started yelling
Do you recall what she was yelling about?
that, why did you take JJ? Why did you take JJ? Why did you take him out of school? Why are you moving? What are you doing? All this is your fault. It was just ridiculous.
So she'd been gone for 58 days, leaving,
No contact whatsoever.
and then she shows up at the house when you guys are moving out.
Yeah.
What was Charles's demeanor reaction? You said he was crying?
He was at first, but then he was just trying. Charles was a very soft-spoken man, and he was just trying to get a word in edgewise. And finally, Lori settled down a little bit, and they went and they talked for a while in the living room, or I guess it's like a great room, and then they moved to the bedroom to talk. And I could still hear every now and then Lori would get a little loud, but they were talking. And then I remember that Lori came let's see, I was sitting at the dining table, and she stood next to me and she said, "I love you, KK." And I said, "Well, I love you too. I'm sorry this is happening." And she cried, and I didn't know what to do really. So, I mean, I just was there. And then she walked off, and the next day she came, I don't know who came, but they got Tylee's belongings out of the casita where all of Tylee's belongings were. And I don't remember if she got anything of hers. I really don't remember.
Okay. So are we now talking at the beginning, end of March, beginning of April of 2019, when Charles is moving back to Houston?
Yes.
Did he bring JJ with him?
Yes. Well, in order for me and Charles to move in, Larry, I flew out here and brought JJ back to Louisiana with me. And then my husband, Larry, kept him for a week while I flew back here to help Charles pack and then drive back to Houston.
All right, so you guys rented a big truck and drove it?
He drove the U-Haul, I drove his pickup.
All right. When you and Charles got to Houston, then did your husband bring JJ back?
Yes, he did.
Through all of this time with Charles, when he was looking for Lori while she was gone for those 58 days, did he still want Lori to be part of JJ's life?
He did. He never was trying to take that away from Lori, even though Lori didn't want him anymore. I still didn't. I never really understood that, but I guess he was just hoping for the best. But yes, he absolutely wanted her to be part of his life, Lori's life.
So once Charles moved to Houston, did Lori ever also move out there?
I don't know if you call it moved out there, but she did. She came that day on March 28th. Charles said, "Look, we're moving to Houston. You're welcome to come. I'll fly you out Sunday." And she said, "No, I'm busy. I have a project," or something she was doing in Hawaii. She said, "It'll be about 2 weeks and I'll be in Houston." So whatever she did, she was gone for 2 weeks, 2 more weeks. It was a total of 72 days, I believe, she was gone altogether. And then she was there. She and Tylee moved in at Charles's, and Charles said that she slept in JJ's room with him.
So the first 2 weeks when Charles and JJ are in Houston without Lori, were you ever there to help with JJ or Charles's business?
No, Lori was there. I mean,
I guess
JJ was.
before she moved there, the 2 weeks.
Oh, I think.
Or did
No,
you?
I had to go home for a little while, but Charles came like the weekend, and, so if I wasn't here, he was there.
Okay. So once you drove him there, you may have stayed to help him, and then you went home.
Yeah.
And you weren't there when Lori came to Houston.
No.
You told us that you had been helping your brother with his business, and I think you'd said something about changing passwords.
Yeah.
Was that to different financial accounts?
Right. Credit card, bank, stuff like that. Yeah. The password to Google, the password to,
All the things you use for business.
Yeah. Yes.
And so when you started helping him, you had changed a lot of those passwords.
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware that, or at some point, did Charles stop asking you to help him with the business?
He did, and that's when Lori came back.
Okay. Now, you said that your brother worked in annuities, right?
Yes,
Right, that last part of the time when you were working with him up through sort of the end of March, beginning of April, were you aware of Charles coming into a large amount of money?
he was receiving an annuity, what do you call it? I can't think of the word right now, but he was receiving like $125,000 check for his commission for annuities, and Lori obviously knew that because she was there just a few days before that came into the bank, that was deposited into the bank. I had access to the bank, so I would watch that.
Okay. So even though Lori came back, you still had the passwords to look into Charles's account?
Yes.
Do you know how long Lori stayed in Texas with Charles?
It's like she wasn't there the entire time, but I mean, she was always traveling through May. I'll say towards the end of May. I'm not for sure exactly what day.
Okay. So at some point, a couple months later, you become aware that she has left Houston.
Yes.
Did you know where she went?
Yeah, she was back back here.
Did you know, did JJ come with her when she moved back here to Arizona?
He did.
And did you know, did your brother move back here?
No, he did not.
And with your access to the finances, were you aware whether or not Charles was paying for a house here in Arizona for Lori and JJ?
I really don't recall seeing that transaction. I really don't, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. At that time, I was selling my company, and so I had a lot going on at that time, and that's when it was really getting, the due diligence. The company was doing their due diligence, so I had to provide a lot of information for them, and so it really was perfect timing because then I got super busy with my company, and I didn't have to deal with all of Charles's because Lori was back. Or
Let me ask you something else. Were you aware of when Charles met Lori, or they got married, do you know if she worked?
she was a hairdresser. She did work as a hairdresser, and I don't know exactly when she quit working, but I don't think she worked long, if she did, after they got married.
Okay. So for most of the time when you knew them to be married, you did not see her working outside the home.
No.
Did Charles, I guess, work so she could stay home with the kids?
Yes, he was fine with being a one income, letting her stay home, tend to the kids, and he would be the moneymaker.
Now, I know that we've talked about Charles working in the area of financial planning. Did you know if Charles had a life insurance policy?
Yes.
That's something that, how did you learn about that?
Well, I mean, he had told my husband Larry and I years ago, he helped us acquire a $1 million life insurance policy for me and my husband each. And because he always had one, and Lori had one, so that was nothing new or unusual to talk about.
Okay. At some point when you were helping Charles, when Lori was had disappeared and Charles didn't know where she was. Did you have a conversation with Charles about the beneficiary of his life insurance?
Yes, it was early February when came here to help him with JJ, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna take Lori off as beneficiary, and I'm gonna put you as a beneficiary." And I was like, we talked about maybe a minute and a half about it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I really don't want to be that person, but okay. And I never followed up to see if he changed. I didn't know until I got the phone call after he was killed.
So the discussion you had of that change was during that time period when he couldn't find Lori, he had no idea where he was, and he was taking care of JJ?
Yes,
And you were helping him take care of JJ.
yes.
So if something had happened to Charles during that time when Lori wasn't around, would you have taken care of JJ?
Yes, he would have come back to me and my husband.
So I want to kind of go to right around that July time period. Do you recall when was the last time, I'll start with, when was the last time you saw your brother, Charles?
That's a good question. Probably must have been in June.
And do you recall where that was or the
I think he
circumstances?
came to Lake Charles for the weekend.
Did you see JJ then?
Yeah, no. The last time I saw JJ was May 18th.
When was the last time you recall speaking or texting with your brother, Charles?
He texted me the night before he was shot, and just, hey, I'm going to be in Phoenix tomorrow, and how's it going? And just a little short text, and I'm boarding the plane now, and I'll be back in Phoenix in a little bit. And then he told me a few other things he had planned, but that was not much, not a big deal.
Did you
Nothing
think
major.
he was going to Phoenix to just see JJ?
Yes.
Did you know anything about any type of intervention?
No, he never talked. If he did talk to me about it, and I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that. But no, I know that he and Adam was his confidant during that time, Lori's brother, and so I know that whatever he was doing, Adam was part of it, and they were just. I knew he was in good hands with Adam, because Adam, they loved Charles, him and his wife.
Do you have any knowledge of Charles wanting to get a place here in Phoenix so he could be closer to JJ?
I don't remember that, but I can't remember that. I mean, I don't think, I don't know.
No,
I can't
okay,
answer that.
that's okay. I want to talk to you then about, so you talked to your brother, just kind of normal stuff as he was, before he got here to Phoenix. How did you learn that your brother Charles was dead?
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I, and I got a call from his oldest son, Cole, and he said, "Hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said Dad's dead." And I said, wait, what did you just say? And he told me again, and I said, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. And I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yeah, she won't. I'm trying calling, she's not answering. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me let me think about this, let me see, and I'll call you back, I promise, as soon as I can figure this out. So I called my husband to tell him, and he said, okay, well, I told him that what the Cole said, and he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there, and he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him, and he's dead. Alex killed him yesterday. And I mean, that was just like, it was horrible. I have to call my siblings and let them know. Thank you. And everybody was just freaked out. I didn't know what to do. But I did call Cole back and let him know that it was true, and just was telling him, let's keep in touch. You find out something, I find out something, we'll let each other know. And
Did you try to reach out to Lori?
I've tried calling, texting Charles. I tried calling, texting Lori. And at some point, she texted me, she returned a text, something like, I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff and I'm busy. And she was too busy to even call his family to say that he was dead by her brother killing him. And
Take a breath. So you had tried to reach her and she was too busy to talk to you.
yeah.
Did you ever, what was the burial plans? Did you ever get Charles back? What happened with him?
We ended up calling a detective, the detectives in Chandler, since that's where it happened. And we were able to speak to a detective, I don't know who, but we told them that I had already arranged us a flight for the next day. We were here by noon Saturday because I needed to know I need to know where JJ was. I didn't know what he had seen. I didn't know what he knew. I knew he would be, I knew it wasn't good, but I couldn't, we had to talk to the detectives before I did anything with Lori, and we had to wait till Sunday to meet with Nate Moffitt, and then when we talked to him is when I told him about the life insurance policy, and that Lori, that I didn't know if Charles had ever changed it to me like he said he was going to do. And so I didn't know, but I just knew we had to get JJ because he was not safe with her.
Let me stop you there. I'm going to go back to Charles. Where was Charles buried, or what was done with his remains?
Well, this was before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money. She had him cremated, and he was FedEx or whatever over to my office, along with his Letterman's jacket from high school and a couple pair of cheap sunglasses and one or two watches. It was just a few little trinkets. And Charles had a watch collection, and she just sent some crap.
So she cremated him and FedExed him to you.
Yes,
Sent him to your work office?
yes.
Now, you're saying this is before she learned the life insurance policy was not going to be, she was not going to be the beneficiary. Did you set up like a service for Charles in?
Yes, my family and I made arrangements for a memorial service to happen in Lake Charles on August the 3rd, which was, he was killed July 11th. So it took us a little bit to put it together, but we did.
Did you talk to Lori about having JJ come out for Charles's service?
I think the last time I talked to Lori was she told us that she wanted, I asked her, what can we do in Houston? I was trying to be nice because I knew she had something to do with his murder. And I'm not one that can just lie off the cuff. I'm a bad liar. And so when I did talk to her, and it was a long, awkward conversation I had with her, but I was like, what do you want us to do with that stuff at the house in Houston? But when we got to the house in Houston, and she did, yeah, y'all please go do what you want to do with it, see what Cole wants, y'all split it up, y'all take it.
She gave you permission to go to the
Yes.
house in Houston and take whatever was there?
Yes, and when we got there, none of Charles's personal belongings were there, nothing at all. And that, I couldn't figure out why nothing of Charles's or JJ's was there. Or wait, nothing of Charles's was there. Just his business files and the big furniture, sofa, beds, stuff like that.
So you went there, you did that. How did you, and you told us that you did not know for sure if your brother had ever changed the beneficiary from Lori to you. How did you find out if that was done?
I think it was the following week, a lady from Banner Life, that's where it's policy, who wrote the policy. A lady called and said that I was the beneficiary, I was the sole beneficiary, and what was our address, and she wanted to verify a few things and to send out the check.
When you got that call, did you ever have Lori confront you about the life insurance policy?
Did I ever have Lori what?
Yeah, did Lori ever confront you about being the beneficiary for Charles's life insurance policy?
Yes, she didn't call and do it. She sent me a text one night, a picture or two of a screenshot. She took a screenshot of the change of beneficiary form with my name on it. And she said something to the effect of 5 kids and his sister gets all the money, or is that why you want JJ? Something to that effect, which it made no sense. I want JJ, period. That was a dumb statement by her.
So let me ask you this. So she told you again that she was left with these 5 kids, right?
Yeah, 5 kids. She had Colby and Tylee and JJ. And
at that
Colby
time-
was out of the house, so it was just Tylee and JJ.
So she's messaging you this, saying how upset she is because she has 5 kids to take care of.
Yeah,
And then she tells you that, is this why you wanted JJ to come to Charles's service?
No, I had already gotten the okay from her to come get him. I was gonna fly here, pick him up, go back to Louisiana, keep him for a week and attend this, so he could attend the service during that time. And when she found out when she found the change of beneficiary form, She said that she was too busy, they were moving to Hawaii, and it would be too confusing for JJ to come, and he needed to be with her.
So after she found out and had confronted you about that change of beneficiary where you are now getting Charles's life insurance policy, she changed her mind and refused to let JJ go to Charles's service, his
Yes.
dad's service. After this confrontation about Charles making you the beneficiary of the life insurance policy, did that pretty much end most of the contact you had with Lori, other than you reaching out to talk with JJ?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, Cross?
Ms. Woodcock, where were you on July 11th, 2019?
At home in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Were you aware at all of the relationship between Charles and Tylee?
It was, let's say, it was a bit contemptuous. It seemed like there was always a lot of drama going on, and so that's all I knew. He didn't say too much about it, and I didn't pry.
But you knew that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for
I
a
can't hear
while?
you.
I'm sorry. You did know that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while?
Yes.
Okay. And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of his
July-
murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't,
Okay.
because you didn't tell me.
Ms. Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, redirect?
Just briefly. You were asked about the relationship between your brother and Tylee. How old was Tylee when Lori and Charles got married?
She was 3, or right around 3.
So was Charles in her life for most of her, like, memorable years?
Yes, he was.
And how old was she in July of 2019?
She was 16. Yeah,
So a teenager.
yes.
In terms of their relationship, are you saying that Charles and Tylee never had good times?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I saw them have good times, and it wasn't, it wasn't that they couldn't look at each other, or, it wasn't like that. But, I mean, yeah, a teenage girl on one is hard anyway, but I do know that there was a lot of issues with her dad and Lori with her ex-husband and custody, and it was a mess. It was a mess.
So Tylee had a lot going on in her life,
Yes, she did.
and you would see her and Charles at times have difficulty getting along?
I never really saw anything that sticks out in my mind. But I just know he'd tell me how it was just difficult. And it, as a step parent, it can be very difficult. I can attest to that.
So on July 11th, when Charles Vallow was killed, did you actually have any idea that your brother was dead?
None at all. How would I know?
So in terms of you learning that your brother was dead, it was never from Lori
Or
Vallow.
from her.
It was,
It was from Google that my husband found.
thank you. I have no other questions.
Are there any questions for this witness from anyone on the jury? I don't see any questions. You can step down now. Done. All right. Members of the jury, that's going to conclude trial for this week. No trial tomorrow. I'm going to try to start early on Monday and Tuesday only. So just to preview next week, I plan on, if you guys can all be here at 10 a.m., ready to start a little earlier than normal for Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday and Thursday we'll be back to the 10:30 a.m. All right. I'll remind you to remember the admonition and avoid any sort of information about this case that you do not receive from this, that's outside of this courtroom, I should say. All right, thank you. We'll be at recess. Is there anything from either the state or the defense?
No.
All right, we'll see you Monday morning.